Entrepreneurs aren't born, they are made through failures, breakthroughs, and relentless hustle. Welcome to the Empowered Entrepreneur TV show. This is your host Rohit Soni, airing across 185 countries, 26 plus TV networks, 100 plus podcast stations. This is where visionaries share their unfiltered journeys, strategies, and game changing insights. Your success story starts here. This is more than just a show, it's a movement. Watch, learn, and elevate. Welcome back to the Empowered Entrepreneur TV show. This is your host, Rohit Soni. And today I'm back again with an amazing episode and an amazing personality on my TV show today. Today we'll talk about relationships. Today we'll talk about connection. Today we'll talk about why it's important in this day and age to actually understand each other on a deeper level. What is it all about? Because everyone's, even if you talk about people dating, things have changed around us, right? The culture has changed. But we have to always understand it's us who connects. It's us who talk. It's us who help each other when needs. So we'll talk about in those things around today, but I want to introduce you to my guest today. I want to introduce to you someone who has went from being a TV producer to a transformation coach. I'd like to welcome Nikki Taub on the stage, who is helping people rebuild relationship, rewrite their mindset, and reconnect with what matters most. Her no BS approach and her create connection method are transforming how we show up in love and life. So today we'll talk to her and see what we can understand in terms of love, relationship, wellness, if she can share a little bit. So welcome, Nikki, on the stage. How are you doing?
Thank you so much, Rohit. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's lovely to have you, Nikki. So could you just tell us a little bit more about yourself, like so people know about you, right?
Well, you and I met because we work together, and you are helping me to kind of launch my brand. So thanks for that. You've been amazing. But I've had quite a journey. And without getting too deep, what I am doing now with my life is what I was destined to do. I have no doubt. It's my greatest passion, and it's really about helping people to connect. I am all about relationships. Ever since I was just a wee little child, all I wanted to do was to connect, to be loved, to love, to be understood. And, I've spent my life up until this middle age point making a lot of mistakes, learning a lot, gaining a ton of insight. And I feel that I've now arrived at a place where I figured a lot of stuff out, right? Like I've been through a divorce. I have been a single mom. I'm about to get married again, this summer. I have learned so much. And, my previous life, I was a television producer, reality television producer. And so not only did my experiences teach me so much about connection and relationships, but witnessing so many people from all around the world. I mean, I've interviewed hundreds of people and I've watched real, raw, unfiltered moments in relationships play out. And from that objective standpoint, not being so close to it myself, I was really able to understand and dissect what everybody really wants in this life. And that's connection.
And I'm happy that we're talking about connection because I believe it has lost its meaning. Because I feel like a lot more people are today doing something which is called instant stuff instead of actually connecting with people. So how important it is for you today, Nikki, to put that word out in front of the world so they understand the meaning of it.
It is so true. And there's really no better time for this. So I made this pivot into becoming a life coach. And as I mentioned, my focus is really on connection and cutting conflict and creating healthy bonds and strong connections. So, and this goes for anyone and everyone in any relationship, whether we're talking about parents and children, couples, business, work relationships, teams, friendships, whatever it is. The reason why I feel like it's so essential now, and I made this career pivot, is because we are now raising a generation in this digital age. And it is so toxic in so many ways. You know, our kids are not developing the skills that we developed, Gen Xers, even millennials, we still had a chance, right? But these Gen Z kids don't know how to relate to each other in person. They're used to devices, texting, FaceTimes, hiding behind gaming. They haven't even met these people that they're friends,
Okay.
right?
They haven't even met people who they've considered them as a real friend over their parents. Well, that's embarrassing.
It's crazy. I mean, and you ask these kids, like, so who are your friends? And they have not met. I'd say, like, if they've got these 5 friends who they say are their close friends, 3 out of 5 of them they've never met because they're interacting with them only through chat rooms or games or whatever it is. And we're really doing our kids such a disservice because we allow them. We're so afraid of being the tough parent, right? And saying, you've got to get outside, you've got to get off of your devices, and setting these boundaries that our kids are now. Gen Z is just at the age where they're entering college and entering adulthood, and they're not equipped. They don't have the tools to function in society. They don't know how to advocate for themselves. They don't know how to communicate effectively. Um, you know, Forget about it. Job interviews. I mean, I was even working back in television, hiring people who wouldn't look me in the eye doing an interview. I mean, it was mind blowing, mind blowing. And unfortunately, this is what we have to contend with. And so I think it's so critical that I am able to help and advise parents, kids, and couples who are really lacking those skills because we're so caught up now in this digital phase.
Well, we'll take a deep dive into it, right? So before we go into the short break, I want to know, like, what inspired you to become a relationship coach? What inspired you? Did you see anything? Was it like was an experience that way? If you could just shed light on that.
I think that, there was a multitude of experiences, but the primary experience for me, I think, came from number one, marrying my high school sweetheart, and understanding that when you get married and you're young, you typically can grow together or you grow apart. And I did not quite know who I was and what my needs were in my 20s. So, when you get together with someone when you're young, for me, I grew apart from that person. And I think that my inability to maybe communicate those things effectively affected and impacted my marriage. And then, so that was one. And then the second thing was working on, it's a pretty well known TV show called Say Yes to the Dress. For over a decade, I saw hundreds of young brides every day getting married with this crazy focus on the wedding and the dress. And then I would get into an interview and ask, what is it that they love about their partner to be? Right. And often the response was so superficial. It was so one note, like, oh, he's so funny and we like have a great time together. And then I would try to dig and get a little bit more. And it was like, well, he treats me really well. And again, like it just felt so superficial that I was blown away. And as the years went by, I would follow up with some of these brides, and they were already divorced or really experiencing a lot of conflict in their relationship. And I knew also simultaneously, while my daughter was being launched into the world of going to college, that young people really need support. And so that was my mission. I felt that communicating, relationships, learning about who you are before you connect with another, really standing firm in yourself, and having that awareness is so critical to have successful relationships. That those, I say, would be the top three things: my own relationship, working on Say Yes to the Dress, and launching my daughter into the world, were the things that really made me want to become a relationship coach.
Well, I would really want to learn a lot more about your methods as well because I work with you, so I kind of know about it, but deep down, not yet. And I want our audience to understand those things because I feel like what you have to offer is something magical. When I say magical, that doesn't mean something out of the box. That means something that connects you to people on a deeper level. So we'll talk about that, but right now we have to run into a quick break. But when we come back, Nikki will share with you the relationship method Nikki uses to help connect people, help them get reconnected as well, whether they are a couple, co-worker, or even a parent. So I'll come back and we'll take it from there. As a coach or a consultant, your focus should be on transforming lives, not struggling to get clients. That's where my company Amplify Media comes in to help you not just scale your business, but to consistently give you the revenue that your business deserves. We actually build a done for you lead generation acquisition system that brings in clients consistently so that you don't have to worry about where the next client is coming in. You focus on the most important thing that is scaling your business and impacting your own coaching clients. From high impact marketing and scroll stopping content to expert funnel creation, we take your business from point A to point B with precision. Coaches and consultants worldwide trust the company. We have over 277 plus clients, case studies all around the world, help tons and tons of businesses scale. So your next level is waiting. Let's make your brand unforgettable and visit the website today. I would love to offer you a free strategy session to share with you how we can help scale your business. Thank you. Welcome back to the Empower Entrepreneur TV show. This is your host, Rohit Soni. Let's get into it what Nikki is best known for. Her create connection method that's helping people worldwide to break emotional walls and build stronger bonds. So I'm going to get her back on the stage. Hi, Nikki.
Hi.
So we'll talk about the create connection method. What makes it effective across such diverse relationship it has? Because when I see people these days, right, in relationship, they're struggling. And it's not something that's new. It's been happening for a long, long time. So how you help people reconnect? Please shed light on that.
So, in practicing coaching, I have talked to so many people, and I find that there's certain things that we lack when we communicate that are really essential. And in using these, it's an acronym. So create. If you want to create connection and you utilize this method, you will really find that your relationships will change. And there are a couple of components to it. So the first is clarity. If you want someone to understand you, which is really what we all want in this world, right? We just want to be understood and validated. You need to communicate clearly. We can't make assumptions that other people know what we're thinking or saying. So clarity, and remember, less is more. The second component is to regulate. We must regulate our emotions. And that's something that is challenging at times, particularly if we grew up without a parent who was able to help us regulate our emotions. So there are all kinds of tips and tricks that I offer and skills to be able to take a moment, take a breath, regulate your emotions, because when you are out of control and angry and overwhelmed, nothing is accomplished because the emotions take over. That part of your brain, the amygdala, takes over. You're feeling supercharged, and the rational part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, shuts down. And so nothing is accomplished, nothing is resolved. The third thing is empathy. And empathy, I have to say, has sort of been, the core of who I am in my life. And I think that having empathy is number one most essential thing to have a connection and a healthy relationship. Why? Because the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes and feel their experience is exactly what makes somebody feel connected and understood. So that's empathy. A is for active listening. Now, I have had to practice this. I think we all do. Active listening is listening to understand, listening with curiosity, not listening to respond, right? And then we have timing. If we approach a conversation or what we think is going to be a difficult conversation at the wrong time, then it's going to be a difficult conversation. So you want to make sure that someone is open to hearing you and it's an appropriate time to bring up a particular point of contention. And then there is expression. I thought this was so interesting. It's not just the words that we say, but of course, we've heard it's how we say it, right? So 10% of how we communicate are our words. 30% of how we communicate is our tonality, which, as we were saying, gets completely lost in this digital world, right? And then how many times have texts been misunderstood or misread because you can't hear the tone? And then the remaining 60% is body language. So our body language, our tone, and our words, not so much, is what our expression is. So that's the create method. And when you utilize these skills, you will find that your relationships will improve exponentially.
One of the things that, Nikki, I've seen in a relationship around the world and working with dating coaches as well, which is a little different, that they tell that, and you connect the dots from there, right? They tell that words doesn't matter, action does.
100%.
So what's your take on that?
I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think words are empty, right? If you can say to me, you can tell me, I love you and you are so important to me. But if I ask you to give me a ride to work because it's pouring out and you're heading in that direction and you say, "Oh, well, it's going to hold me up," then I'm not really that important to you, am I? Right? So your actions, those are the things that we need to pay attention to. That is sort of your thoughts create your emotions and your emotions create your actions. So if you're thinking that you really love someone and care about them, your actions will follow. But if you're not really feeling like they are a priority to you, then the actions will not follow. And so that's what you have to pay attention to for sure.
Yeah, and I see people, right, and Nikki, day in and day out, they have these heartbreaks happening. They have these problems coming in their life, right? Now suddenly they marry early, they have children, and that responsibility comes up. I feel like you should first be responsible for yourself before marrying someone. You should understand where you stand. You should be someone who can take, like, as a man, you should be someone who should be taking care of that expense part too, sorted out for your life before going into a relationship, because you need to provide, right? At the end of the day, that's your nature. That's in your nature. That's what I feel. So those things happen to people these days. So what's your advice to couples who are going through that?
I
What
mean,
would you do?
sorry, I think you hit the nail on the head when you talk about getting to know yourself first and where you stand and what are your values and what is your truth. I mean, what are the things that are important for you? And when you can stand on your own 2 feet and feel secure and confident, you don't have to compromise your values in a relationship for the other person, because that other person also knows you and loves you for who you are and what's important to you and what you represent. I will say that I find the biggest problem that we experience in every relationship is our inability to be accountable and to look at ourselves and say, what am I doing? What am I contributing? How am I contributing to the nature of this relationship? Because laying blame is never a good idea. And playing a victim is also never a good idea. So the best way to live in your truth and to have healthy relationships is to look at yourself, because we can't control anyone else, what they think, what they feel, what they do. We can only control what we think, feel, and do, and how we choose to respond. So, healthy relationships are built on healthy people. And unless you're willing to look at yourself, we can only love another or be connected to another as deeply as we are connected to ourselves. And I know that sounds a little bit, um, esoteric, but really, it's the truth. It's like if you can get to know yourself on a deeper level, then you can get to know someone else on a deeper level. So if you're very surface and you're like, well, everything's great, and you kind of like shut it down and you won't look at yourself and like, well, I'm good. I know what I'm doing. I know I'm right. Then you're not going to want to get to know someone else and understand them on a deeper level. I hope I'm making sense and not rambling.
Since we are talking about the most important thing, that you need to love yourself first before you love someone else. You have to start doing that.
Yes.
What do you think about that? Because if we don't, what are we doing? How can I contribute my 100% to a relationship that way?
I mean, I agree. I agree from, personal experience, right? Like I didn't know who I was getting into my first marriage. Now about to get into my second marriage, I am far more grounded, and I know who I am, and that comes with life experience, of course, and with age. But I think it also comes with an ability to let go of our ego and to say, not only do I want to love myself, but I also want to accept myself for who I am, good, bad, or indifferent, because nobody is perfect, right? We're all a product of our childhood, of our experiences, of society. But to love yourself and also to accept yourself for who you are and recognize your flaws, your triggers, the things that are getting in your way. That's so important, because when you can do that and you can accept yourself, you can also then accept another with their flaws and their triggers.
Agree. And because relationships have become very uncertain these days, because of the same old reasons that you don't love yourself, you get into a breakup that hurts other one. And while you are doing something that you feel is okay to you, someone else is getting hurt.
Mm-hmm.
That I wanted to shed some light for someone who is going through it, and what would you do different, and how would you set a boundary? Because people at this point, couples, they don't know how to set boundaries, and the dominator always suppress the other person who is actually right. So what's your take? I believe we are touching on a very deep subject here, and I really want everyone who's watching this show understand it before we go into a break.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. In fact, I have many clients who are going through this now, and I also have, someone who's very close to me going through it right now. And there is a lot of hurt and a lot of heartbreak, because people are not willing to take responsibility and to set boundaries, right? And I think, this all comes along with beliefs that we hold about ourselves. And there are a lot of limiting beliefs. We have this narrative constantly going in our mind that maybe I'm not good enough, maybe I'm not worthy of love that is greater than this. We don't often want to be alone. We don't like change, so we continue to accept really less than we deserve. And I think it's so critical to know your worth and to know what feels good and feels right for you and know what doesn't. And to understand that self-respect is so important. Without it, you cannot possibly feel good about yourself. So if you're in a situation, if you're in a relationship where you are not happy, you're not being treated in a way that makes you feel like your best self, if you're constantly anxious, if you're walking on eggshells, if you're afraid to bring up, a point of contention, you don't feel safe, you don't feel understood, and you don't feel heard. What are you doing? Right. And if the relationship is good, if it's solid, everything takes work. But sometimes you have to know when it's time to disconnect and to pull the plug. And at other times, you have to know, okay, this person cares, they understand, they're trying, they're using the create method, right? Like they're doing the things to make the relationship work. But there is no way to get over heartbreak except to go through it and just feel those feelings and allow yourself to the time to heal. I always say the only way out is through. There's no magic wand. There's no quick fix. Heartbreak hurts so much, but your self-respect is far more important than staying somewhere that you don't belong. So grab your self-respect, grab your courage, get out of a relationship that is not right for you, and allow yourself the time and the grace to go through it.
Exactly. And to anyone who's watching the show, I'd like to tell you that Nikki has gone through it. I have gone through it. And there's one thing I will keep getting back, that time heals. What do you think? What do you think over that?
I mean, it absolutely heals. I remember going through my divorce. I think it took me almost 5 years to realize that the marriage was not going to work. And it was super painful, but I think I had grieved and mourned the loss of my marriage for those 5 years before the divorce. So, at that point it was still difficult, but then it took another couple of years before I realized that there is love out there and that I will love again and someone will love me, and that it's, their relationship is for, what do they say? It's like a season, a reason, or I can't think of how do you say it?
So you're bookable for a reason, for a season, or a lifetime.
That's right. And so, and I think every relationship, whether it's a partner, doesn't matter, is in your life always for a reason, whether it's a season or a lifetime also, but there's always a reason. And it's to help you grow. It's a mirror, every relationship, if you allow it, to see who you are and to learn. Every experience is a learning experience. You never fail. I don't see divorce as failure. I don't. I see it as a courageous, very courageous move, more courageous than staying in an unhappy relationship for the children or because you're too fearful to go out on your own. I think that it takes courage to end a relationship. I really do. And so if we could just flip the script in our mind and say, this relationship wasn't a failure, it was feedback. I learned from it. And what I learned, I can take into my next relationship.
Exactly. And guys who are watching the show, we will take a deep dive into that. But when we come back right out of the short break, Nikki will share about her coaching style, the transformation she has witnessed, and how she blends empathy with honesty. So when we come back, we dive into her coaching and how she coaches her clients and takes and helps them with their relationship advice. So I'll see you after the short break. As a coach or a consultant, your focus should be on transforming lives, not struggling to get clients. That's where my company Amplify Media comes in to help you not just scale your business, but to consistently give you the revenue that your business deserves. We actually build a done-for-you lead generation acquisition system that brings in clients consistently so that you don't have to worry about where the next client is coming in. You focus on the most important thing that is scaling your business and impacting your own coaching clients. From high-impact marketing and scroll-stopping content to expert funnel creation, we take your business from point A to point B with precision. Coaches and consultants worldwide trust the company. We have over 277 plus clients, case studies all around the world, help tons and tons of businesses scale. So your next level is waiting. Let's make your brand unforgettable and visit the website today. I would love to offer you a free strategy session to share with you how we can help scale your business. Thank you. Welcome back to the Empowered Entrepreneur TV show. This is your host, Rohit Soni. Nikki, you're known for being direct advisory coaching style, and it gets real results for your clients. Can you shed a little bit light on your coaching practice and what made you choose a more direct, action oriented approach rather than just guiding clients to their own conclusions?
Yeah, for sure. It's funny when you just asked me that. I am direct. I am no bullshit. It's just who I am. I always, I managed my teams that way when I worked in television, and I can't help it. It's the way I coach as well. But the point is, it reminded me of years ago, because I'm very petite. My nickname at work was Mousalini because I was so direct and so, sort of no bullshit, that was sort of like my name, Mousalini. Anyway,
Mussolini, is that a political figure like Mussolini and
like,
Kennedy?
right, like a dictator. Like I am super.
Like Mussolini. Yeah, I
Right,
understand.
yes. Right. So my coaching approach is unique because I feel that, there's a difference between coach and therapist, and I don't have to get into it, but therapy is a long process. There's no incentive for a therapist to heal you quickly and get you out. Whereas a coach, it's my job. All I want to do is to coach you to reach your goals, right? And then go out into the world. If you need me, come back. We can do a quick, couple of sessions, but I want you to achieve your goals. I am your coach. I'm your accountability partner. Therapy, I was in therapy for 25 years. And I think that had I had a coach, I would have been I would have been coached maybe for a year off and on. My point is that I often feel that in therapy, and most coaches like to ask questions. They want the client to come up with the answers. And I get that. And that makes sense, right? If you're motivated intrinsically, and if you come up with the answers yourself of where you should go and what your strategy should be, it's more intrinsic because you came up with it. Sometimes it takes a while to get there. And as far as I'm concerned, I start with that, with the questions, and I try to elicit those answers, but it's not always easy and it's not always a fast process. So I like to then offer my opinions and my suggestions. And that's like, no. Like any coaching certification program, any book on coaching is like, no, you cannot give your opinion or your advice. And I do. And frankly, my clients like that because I remember sitting in therapy, Rohit, like years ago, and my therapist was like, well, what do you think that means? Or how do you think you should handle that? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, can you just tell me? Because like I could sit here for 5 more sessions and we can ask questions and look at each other. But I really, if you've got an idea, just tell me. So that's how I am with my clients. And maybe it's not for everyone, but my feeling is I will say, do you want a suggestion? Would you like some advice? And, and there are times when I'm off base and not on target, and that's okay. But I am direct and I will tell you how I see it. And, it's just the way I am. So, and I find it to be very effective and I get results. I get results quickly.
And again, it's all about results, right? Because if you can bring those results, people love you and then they want to work with you. Very simple. And based on your experience, Nikki, like how do clients typically respond to the level of honesty that you bring to the table? What happens on the other side of resistance for them if they are being struck with something that's holding them back?
I mean, I think that clients sign with me because they do like my direct approach, and I'm very clear in our initial call about my approach. I have worked with, I think part of the reason also where I'm so direct and I go against every, coaching rule in the book is because I've worked with a lot of teenagers and young adults. And teenagers and young adults need direction. They need advice. They don't have the answers or they don't have the life experience. And they're often looking to an adult, of course, not mom and dad, because why would we listen to mom and dad? But they're looking for someone, another adult who's been there to help them to understand what's going on. what are the choices that I have in front of me? How can I make a wise decision? Why do I feel this way? So, coaching teenagers and kids and young adults is different than coaching adults. But I have found that the direct approach that I use with the teenagers is very effective as well with their parents because they want the tools to be able to help their kids, right? I mean, that's why they're reaching out to me. So if I'm direct with the parents, I'm direct with the kids, I then realized this is the right way to go. This is the approach I need to take because who doesn't want quick results, right? And sometimes it takes a long time to be able to do that work on yourself. Whereas I can be a mirror, I can reflect to you what I'm seeing, and I can tell you based on what you're sharing with me, what I believe is going to be a strategy for you to get what you want. And that comes from, of course, my own life experience and what I have witnessed from hundreds and hundreds of people that I met as a TV producer.
And as a TV producer, you kind of know, right, how to, like, what has happened on the behind the scenes in the show that you're doing. Even with the director, you kind of know, right, the thinking behind it. And when you meet hundreds and thousands of people, you get that experience. You understand what's actually going on. And when you talk to the people who are actually going through the problem, now you can explain to them in a better way. So let's talk some things as well which are important. Like, could you share a client success story that really moved you, a moment where transformation was undeniable and maybe you had a tear or so in your eyes seeing that transformation? Has that experience ever happened to you?
Yeah, I mean for sure. I had a young woman in her mid 30s who was really at a very difficult point in her life and her relationship. She had been married, trying to have a child, found out that her husband was cheating on her and was, just completely distraught. And, and just sort of fell apart and felt that she would never be able to get past it. She'd never be able to move on because her self-worth was so tied up in what she could do for her husband and trying to please him and make him happy. So when the marriage dissolved and fell apart and he was with another, she felt like a complete failure and just that, she would never be able to make anyone else happy. And what we did was we really worked on not worrying about making others happy, but really getting to know herself and her own worth and her own, um, value and what she had to offer beyond doing for others. And I would say, we worked together for probably, I think, 6 months, and she had a complete transformation. But she was willing to do the work. She was journaling. She was consistently seeing me. She was doing all the things, right? Like the affirmations, the visualizations, the, you know, is eliminating her self doubt by trying to go inward and get to know herself and not looking to everyone else for their opinions, thoughts, validation. So not only was she able to find her own voice and find herself, but now it's probably been a year and a half since we started. And I just had a conversation with her the other day, and she is in a really serious, beautiful relationship. And it's just it's like a 180, the way this man treats her. And she is, she's content and she's happy with who she is and recognizes that a relationship is a two-way street. And she now gets the reciprocity from her partner that she never had in her marriage. So she told me that I changed her life and that she wouldn't be where she is without my coaching. And that was so touching that it actually did bring a tear to my eye.
And I love that part where you said the transformation actually begins from within as well. And I want to make sure whoever is watching the show learn, make notes of what Nikki is saying, because a lot of things maybe you're going through in your relationship, not just with your partner, maybe with your parents as well. We'll shed light more on that too. But we want to make sure if you're watching, you make notes of each and every point, right? Again, we have to go into a quick break. But when we come back, Nikki will share with you how she pivoted from producing television to producing transformational change and the personal stories behind it. So when we come back, we're going to go dive deeper into her professional career as well. Okay? So I'll see you on the other side. As a coach or a consultant, your focus should be on transforming lives, not struggling to get clients. That's where my company Amplify Media comes in to help you not just scale your business, but to consistently give you the revenue that your business deserves. We actually build a done for you lead generation acquisition system that brings in clients consistently so that you don't have to worry about where the next client is coming in. You focus on the most important thing that is scaling your business and impacting your own coaching clients. From high impact marketing and scroll stopping content to expert funnel creation, we take your business from point A to point B with precision. Coaches and consultants worldwide trust the company. We have over 277 plus clients, case studies all around the world, help tons and tons of businesses scale. So your next level is waiting. Let's make your brand unforgettable and visit the website today. I would love to offer you a free strategy session to share with you how we can help scale your business. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Empower Entrepreneur TV show. This is your host, Rohit Soni. Now, let's talk about the path before coaching and the leap you made that so many people are afraid to take, Nikki. Let's talk about your coaching. Let's talk about your practice. You were a successful TV producer. How did that experience prepare you for what you do now in terms of helping people leave anxiety out of their relationship, get better in terms of their boundaries, set those so that they can have an everlasting, lovely relationship?
I think having met so many people over the years in various platforms, right, and with different stories. I mean, I did a show called A Baby Story where I followed couples through labor and delivery, literally of their children, and would witness that and also see how the family dynamic changed. And so I got to see that firsthand. Then I worked on a show called Say Yes to the Dress, where I witnessed hundreds, I mean, maybe even thousands of brides getting into marriages at very young ages, and the family dynamics that would take place on the set while they're searching for a dress, right? And how there's conflicts and there's difficulties with mothers and daughters and siblings and friends, right? So like I would witness that. And then of course I had my own life experience, and I always felt, there's one key thing here. We all want to feel valued, we want to feel heard, we want to feel understood. And I sort of felt that the thing that makes me me, the thing that makes me excited and that I feel enthused and passionate about is helping others to be their best selves so that they can connect and have these deep relationships. Because for me, connection is life, right? Relationships is what we look back on at the end of our lives. And I know it sounds so cliche, but really, it's essential. Relationships are essential for growth, for life, for a fulfilled, uh, for a fulfilled life. So not everyone is good at it. Not everyone knows how to connect, how to succeed in relationships. So I felt that, COVID, my daughter was leaving for university, and the television business was changing, and it was really time for me to make a career pivot. And I knew in my heart that becoming a coach who could help others, to really understand themselves so that they could thrive in their relationships was the route that I wanted to take. And so I studied and I read and I became certified and I took all of this information in and I spent hundreds of hours coaching. And, I'm now at a point where what I do gives me life. It gives me such satisfaction. It's my mission to help people, to be kind, to be compassionate to one another, to connect. And I see these transformations. I see them every day. There are relationships, there are couples who are, on the brink of a breakup. And with just a little bit of work, just a little bit of coaching, things turn around. They really can. People just are lacking the tools. It's like we're born with all the feelings, but we don't have the skills. We don't have the skills to regulate our emotions, to communicate effectively, to really look at ourselves and, accept ourselves for who we are. We've got to get rid of the ego. This all takes time and work, and that's what I'm here to do. I am here to offer the skills, the tools, the techniques in my no bullshit, very direct approach, and continue to facilitate healthy communication between humans, no matter what the relationship. So I'm now finally in a place where I am doing what I know I am destined to do.
And I love that your mission inspires you each and every day, Nikki, to help people, to motivate, to inspire, to maybe give them a strategy or two that will help them in their relationship currently. And you've gone through anxiety, divorce, single motherhood, and a total career pivot as of recently. Which of those challenges became your greatest teacher?
Whoa, that is such a powerful, good question. I would say, I would say my, I would say parenting, actually. I would say parenting as a single mom who was in a very challenging career. I wanted to be the best mom I could be, and I wanted to be successful in my producing career, and um and believing that I could actually do both and do both well was the key for me to doing both well. And I do feel that I certainly was not a perfect parent by no means. And I have made plenty of mistakes, but I've got a good kid and I did do a lot right. And that was finding my patience, finding my own ability to regulate how I was feeling so that I could help her, finding my strength and my courage to make tough choices. The choices that I knew were the best decision for my daughter long term, but short term was going to create a lot of contention and conflict between us, um, because I wouldn't allow her to do something that she wanted to do, right? Or I would set boundaries that she wanted nothing to do with, or I would, you know, not allow her to do something that all my friends are doing it. Well, that's okay. All your friends are not my children, So it was making the tough choices. It was standing by my truth and my values, and just sort of learning how to connect with her uh, in a way that created a bond that I feel is now unbreakable. Really putting all the judgment aside, all of it. I just think that as a mother, you know, I learned so much from my child because she really held up a mirror for me. She, you know, knew how to push all my buttons. She knew how to, really just, can you hear the phone? Do you want to start again? We can't hear it.
I can hear you.
Okay.
Wait. Now you need to restart. Okay, I'll just change the timeline.
All right.
Stop. Three, two, one.
So really, being a parent was so critical for growth for me. Really, it was like the biggest teacher. My daughter was my biggest teacher because she held up a mirror. She was sort of a mini me in many ways, but she also, you know, knew how to push my buttons and hit all my triggers. So I was able to take a look at myself and say, listen, I need to kind of reparent myself with all the things that I didn't get as a child so that I can be the best parent to my own daughter. So I kind of was like parenting myself and my daughter at the same time. And with that, I think that I grew. I grew in understanding who I am, what my flaws are, what my strengths are, and impart that on my daughter. So I think that was the greatest, and still continues to be. She still continues to be my greatest teacher. Um,
I'll
yeah.
Kids are great at teachers sometimes, because of a thing or two they do that might inspire you. Okay, well, I can see a light in it. I can see something that God wants to tell me through this message. So, Nikki, what's next for you? Tell us a little bit more about your services, how people could connect with you, how they can take your services, bind your any programs or courses you have to offer, please.
Yes. Well, my motto has always been you become what you believe. And I believe that I've got, I've got a big, big mission to accomplish. And my mission is to create connection through my create method. I want to create connections in relationships. Doesn't matter what the relationships are. And again, we are born with all of the feelings, but none of the tools. And these are things that are not taught in school. Our parents do their best, but they've got their own stuff going on, and kids don't really like to listen to their parents. So we are doing the best we can with the tools that we have. But I am here to give you the tools, to sharpen the tools that you already have. And it all really starts with awareness. So the first step is let's become self aware, right? When we look outside ourselves and we say, because of my circumstances, I am in this situation, you play victim, or because of this and you lay blame is why I'm here. No, we have the power. We can take control of our lives. We can take control of the life that we want to create. And I want to help people to do that. But again, it starts with awareness. So for those of you who are ready to take that step, ready to start the journey, and you're willing to kind of do the work and look within, I promise you that the payoff is so great that not only will your relationship with yourself improve, but your relationships in the world with anyone and everyone that you encounter will improve exponentially. So this is my mission. It's a global mission. I do believe that I've got a book in my future for sure. I am starting a podcast. It's called Cut the Conflict, and it'll be out probably mid-June. And I've got some really amazing people lined up, and I'm excited about the future and what it holds. And I'm also, I'm getting married this summer, so that's super exciting. But I've got a lot of plans, a lot of things ahead.
So, Nikki, I know we have to end the show right now, but before we end the show, I have a quick fire rapid round for you.
Okay.
So, it won't be too much, but therapy or coaching?
Oh, coaching for sure.
One book that changed your life.
Change Your Paradigm, Change Your Life by Bob Proctor.
Okay. The legendary Bob Proctor. Non negotiable morning habit.
Reading Bob Proctor's Change Your Paradigm, Change Your Life. It's got about 72 pages worth of highlights and pen marks, and I do that while I'm having my coffee. It's like the Bible. It's my Bible.
Favorite kind of client breakthrough that you love?
I love the the teens. I love when the teenagers really have a breakthrough and they find their rhythm and they find their confidence.
Perfect. One word to describe what connection means to you.
Life.
Well, Nikki, it has been an amazing episode with you. I really loved our conversation. Not just the conversation, it was, I believe you are great at connection. You made an amazing connection with me today, and just on this TV show that, you know, you have the tools, you have the truth, and your transformation speaks for itself, right? And your work is also a reminder that connection is key and it starts from within. So, from the Empower Entrepreneur TV show, wishing you more breakthroughs, more impact, and more powerful conversations ahead. Thanks everyone for being a part of this show. Thanks, Nikki, for being a part of this show. See you in the next episode. Thanks, everyone. Success isn't for the chosen few, it's for those who choose to show up, take action, and never back down. This is the Empower Entrepreneur, hosted by Rohit Soni, airing across 185 countries, 26 plus TV networks, and 100 plus podcast stations. You've heard the strategies, you've seen the mindset. Now it's time to execute. I'll see you next week, every Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific and 8 p.m. Eastern. Go, build, dominate. Until next time, stay empowered.